Hey, what is going on? It is your boy Kia Orion back with another tutorial on how to make Bryson Tiller type vocals. So is this going to sound exactly like Bryson Tiller? No, it's not because I'm not his engineer, but I got generally in the kind of ballpark area of the vocals for this song Outta Time with him and Drake. And so what I did first was, the way I'm going to break this down for you is I remade the beat. So this is, let me turn off all these vocals, and I kind of stole that same idea, and I'm called the same concept is called Outta Time. I kind of remixed it, but put my own spin on it. So it's like similar drums, kind of the same vibe, and then these are the vocals. Dum 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 dum. Yeah, vocals. Get it.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah, we would hit the OXO on the ride home every time like clockwork. I bet you forgot those.
So I'm going to teach you guys how to do that, kind of break it down from start to finish in his kind of signature way. He has a bunch of doubles. He also has like ad libs and these kind of different weird effects. And I'm going to be doing all of this with my Bryson Tiller Outta Time template, which you'll be able to find in the description below if you want to check that out. I've got a bunch of different templates and stuff all online. You can check those there, but I'm also going to walk you through if you want to build your own, how you can get this from start to finish. So we're going to jump into it, and I'll show you kind of what it sounds like with the effects off and then with the effects, so you can kind of get a vibe for it. So this is without the effect.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with.
Whoop.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
I have a terrible room for recording, and so you hear a lot of room effects in there, and this is with it on.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now.
Pretty cool template. So if you're ready to get into it, let's do this. So I'm going to break it down for you, pretty much each piece. We're going to go piece by piece, and I'm not going to have the doubles on at first or the ad libs, and we're just going to jump into these main vocals. So the way that, also I apologize for the construction noise if you hear those. First thing we're going to do is hop into this. So again, this is Studio Rack. This is a free plugin by Waves, and then all of the plugins in here are from the Waves Gold bundle. So if you have those, then you could buy this template and you can pretty much load this up and you're ready to rock and roll pretty easily. But we're going to turn all these off and kind of show you what each piece does one at a time. And so I've also created these macros over here for you, which I'll explain in a second. So pretty much what this means is the way that I approach my vocals, as always, is with EQ first, with subtractive EQ. So I'm not boosting anything. When I listen to Bryson's vocals, I hear they're really bright. There's a lot in the high end, and there's not a ton. He does, when he speaks, he has a much lower voice. In this track, I'm actually singing in the lower register than he is in that example of Outta Time. So obviously my vocals are completely different because I'm not Bryson, but this is something that when you do this for yourself, yours will look different. So if you buy the template, or if you're building your own template, you'll need you'll have to figure out what these frequencies are for your own voice. But pretty much this is kind of like a general starting plate in EQ, where it has a lot of the kind of the lows, these kind of problem frequencies taken out, dipped out. So this is what it sounds like with just this right now.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got.
It just clears it up really quickly. Second thing that we're going to jump into, okay, well, actually, this low cut knob, I have this mapped to this macro for you, so that way you can figure out where. Here, let me move this down here and bring that back up so you can see what it's doing. So this first is this low cut, because I don't know where your voice is going to sit, so you're going to low cut it to depending on where works for you.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
I feel maybe like around 120 is where my voice sits. The next thing we're going to jump into is this compressor. So with this, I have this mapped to this macro, the ratio. So this is depending on how much
Wishing I,
how much you actually want, how much compression you want. This is none.
wishing I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
This is all of it.
Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots. Wonder who you got now.
None.
Yeah, we
All
would
of it.
hit the OXO and the.
For me, I find that maybe like a 4-to-1 ratio, somewhere like in here, this kind of works for me.
Wishing I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
Again, I'm not having to do
Rolling through the east side, looking.
anything crazy. I'm just having to kind of catch the peaks. This is the first thing I'm having to do, having a little bit of compression, kind of bringing things in a little bit. The next piece is this de-esser, because the S's are obviously a problem, especially once you start compressing things. So this frequency that I found for my voice is around like 5K, between like 4,000, like 4K, 45 to 5K, somewhere in there. Like I end up having a lot of S's. So I've also mapped this over here so you can kind of change how much or little you want. You might have to mess around with the frequency a little bit, but this is, you'll be able to kind of figure out where your S's are. So
Wishing I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots. Wonder who you got now.
So you can tell right here, kind of as those S's kick in, it's kind of ducking those out. And so again, just you can kind of do to taste for yourself. The next piece on this is the REQ. So this is another EQ because now that we've started to compress, these are kind of two different pieces of compression. And then I wanted to EQ out more of these lows, more problem spots, and I wanted to boost some highs. So if we listen to this without this band on,
Wishing I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots. Wonder who you got.
it just brings out that bite, that high-end bite that I hear in Bryson's vocals. And so with this is the clarity knob. I've mapped this 6 macro to the clarity knob, the clarity knob, so you can kind of choose how much or how little you want. But again, for you, this is, you're gonna have to dial in to taste how much you want.
Wishing I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
I'm recording in a terrible room for this. So like when I'm actually recording these vocals. So if I boost my highs as much as I like to normally, it catches almost too much room noise. So just be careful with that depending on where you're at. All right, moving right along. The next piece is this R compressor. So this is a compressor. I don't have this mapped to a macro. This is one that for this one, this is kind of where I'm getting a lot more compression on the vocal. So listen.
Wishing I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots. Wonder who you got now. Yeah, we would hit the OXO on the ride home every time like.
Right there, you want to match the gain a little bit. So what I was pretty much shooting for was how much gain I'm having here. That's why I was just turning this down. You want this to pretty much be the same level with this on or off. And what I shoot for is, because Bryson's vocals are very compressed, I was shooting for like a -3, between -3 and -6 ratio kind of in
Wishing
there.
I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
So on the hook, maybe it's a little bit more, but not too much. Like around that -3 range is kind of where I like to stay. Pretty fast attack and kind of medium release. And then, so that's kind of the dry chain. And now we're going to jump into the effects. This is the fun part. This is when it really gets to be, this is when you really get, this is where Bryson's vocals really kind of come to life. This is when we get to have some fun with it. So I'm going to bring the beat back because these effects are more, at this point, you want to make sure that your vocals with this compressor are kind of glued to the beat. That's what that second compressor is for. So that's when you're kind of dial this in a little bit to taste.
Wishing I could freeze time. We could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots. Wonder who you got now.
All right, and now the first thing when I listen to Bryson's vocal is a bit of delay. So what I'm having going on here is it's a 4th delay through H delay. I've got the analog turned off, lo-fi enabled. It's at a 4th, like I said, and just the slightest bit of feedback here. And then I'm also, pretty much the way that this works is these work down rather than across. So this delay won't affect this reverb, won't affect this reverb. this delay, this reverb will affect this delay, and this compression will affect both of these. So these kind of work as a chain that goes top to bottom. So what I'm having is a delay on here, so we can listen to this. And then, so that's just the delay, and then I have the reverb on it. Let's actually, if we just solo those. And then what this is this is gated. This is a gated compressor, meaning that this is side chained. This is side chaining this delay to the vocal. So pretty much with this on, you can tell this compressor is being triggered when the vocals are coming in, so that way the delay isn't getting in the way of the vocals. It's mostly just hanging out at the end of the tail end of the phrase. So this is what it sounds like with the delay. Whoop.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
And you can adjust this over here to your taste, and this is pretty much this wet knob. So how much delay or not you want.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah.
So that that can get carried away too fast. You can end up drowning in your delays, so be careful. This next reverb, this is a simple plate reverb. This one pretty much just makes the vocals feel like they sit in a room. This is not this one. This is like, I should label this a long reverb or something so that you realize it, but this is a simple plate reverb. It's a short reverb just to kind of sit in a space, vocal space.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east.
Subtle.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah. We would hit the OXO on the ride home.
So that's a way that it kind of just widens the vocals just the slightest bit, puts them in a room. I found Bryson does that, Drake does that a lot. And this is the macro that's mac'd over here. This is kind of your long verb. This is going to be more like the real spacey verb. And again, I have this gated or side chained, if you will, to the vocals. So this is with the reverb.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah. We would hit the
and this is again macroed over here if you want, gated. This next piece is the doubler. This is simply just, it widens the vocals a little bit. This is again one that you're gonna, this is subtle, but you can hear it if I kind of A-B it.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah. We would hit the OXO on the.
This is a super simple basic doubler with the direct turned off because our dry signal's over here. So super simple doubler, waves doubler. Again, this is just the stock, not the stock, but their kind of startup setting. And then you can dial that into taste here if you want. I don't have that macroed. What I do have macroed is this. This is some of the Bryson Tiller sauce. If you listen to Bryson, he has a lot of like a flanger and phaser. I don't know the exact effect, but it's like this like very processed sounding vocal, especially with his doubles, which I'm going to jump into here in a second. But here is, I have it over here as flanger. So if we have it all the way off, you'll see what happens if I turn it on.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now.
It almost widens it up and gives it kind of a processed feel, but you can overdo it easily, so be careful. And again, this flanger is to the dry wet knob here.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah. We will hit the OXO.
And I have a de-esser on that flanger because it can get a little bit essy. This is a bit of your parallel compression. So this is going to be over here on power. And this is pretty much a compressor that you've blasted. Ratio is 51. It's on the limiter. This thing, the attack is fast. Slight medium release. this thing is getting blasted. So be careful. This is something that you want to blend into your main vocals just to give it, that's why it's called power, is to kind of give it just a little bit more like oomph. This is also called New York compression. Another thing that I've done here for you is I've switched this. So this W means wide, how wide you want it. So like certain things like these, the reverb you might want really wide. So I have this as wide as can possibly be, as wide as can possibly be. But since it's a vocal, I have it kind of coming straight down the center. So I don't like this to be, I don't like my parallel compression to be super wide sounding. I want it to be more to kind of that umph right in the center. So let's blend this in.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah, we would hit the OXO on the ride home every time like clockwork. I bet you forgot though, something that you block out now that you got hurt. Cause we wishing I could freeze time.
So again, subtle. This is subtle. You don't want to go too hard on that one. And this last piece is a bit of brightness. This is one last EQ. I've kind of dipped this kind of problem area of like 3K, where I can get kind of, again, a lot of S's and kind of bad, just terrible sounding frequencies living here. And I've kind of boosted it again to give it a little bit of extra clarity. No knob for this because I ran out of knobs. But this is what this sounds like on and off.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah, we would hit the OXO on the ride home every time like clockwork.
So if you can tell now, like the T's and those S's are now really starting to kind of jump out because we've got a lot more compression, a lot more effects going on. So these last two pieces are the C4. This is a multi-band compressor. And I used the preset pop vocal and then I edited it. So pretty much, again, I've boosted my highs more. Just kind of show you what's going on here. If you don't understand, multi-band compression is pretty much, it's a compressor for different pieces of the frequency spectrum. So from this band to this band, from like, what is this? It's like 70 to 2K, we can boost or subtract differently than we do, say, above 10K, 12K. So it's a really cool, powerful tool, but be careful. And this is what it sounds like with it and without it.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah, we would hit the OXO on the ride home every time like clockwork. I bet you forgot those.
So obviously what I'm doing here is I'm taming some of the S's kind of in that higher range. It's working on a little bit like a de-esser. And then, but I'm also still boosting some of that high end too, because Bryson, again, like I said, he has those bright vocals. So I'm boosting some highs, I'm kind of taming some S's, just keeping the mid-range just kind of a little bit tamed as well.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now.
I also noticed in his vocals, even though they're bright, they feel very much compressed. They're super compressed. There's not a lot of like things jumping out. So that's why I've modeled these around that. If this was a different vocal, I might have made different decisions. But again, because it is him, I also have on this, because it's bright, but it feels like it fits in this space. I'm using this Sibilance. This is just like a de-esser as well, to kind of tame those last final S's, because we did do some boosting with this C4. So it's kind of the last de-esser piece. And so you see kind of what's going on here.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down.
So what this is doing is it's catching those T's and those S's. I've got my threshold around maybe 25. This kind of decides how much or how little of your S you're going to dip out. So right here, as you can tell, as I move this will change. And so this is pretty much telling you like how much or how little you want to allow to come through. So I've got this pretty tight. So it was around like 22, 23, somewhere in there. So as it comes through, anything that's above that range kind of gets cut off. This tells you kind of how wide or narrow, obviously, in terms of this mode. And this one's also kind of, this is if you really just want to catch like S's, and this is more if you want to catch like ch, t, S's, like all those other types of sounds. So I have this kind of like somewhere in the middle as well.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah.
So that is the main vocal with this. And now I'm going to jump into the doubles and show you how we can take this same template and make it super Bryson Tillery with the doubles as well as the ad-libs. So jumping into these doubles, this is where I have a lot of fun with the effects. So I took the same template, but we've just edited it a ton. So with the way that Bryson does a lot of his doubles and his kind of ad-libs is with a lot of that kind of flanger effect. So I have that pushed all the way to the top. A little bit of clarity. I've rolled off a little bit more low end, things of that nature. So you can pretty much take that same template and apply it here and then edit it to make it feel a little bit more with the vibe that you want. So in terms of the actual hook, this is the hook with the doubles.
Out of time, out of time, out of time for you. Yeah, we out of time, out of time. Need more time with you.
So you can tell those are like super affected in terms of the flanger, all those effects that are going on. And so this is what it sounds like in terms of the doubles with the main vocals going with the doubles in the verse that we were listening to as well.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah, we would hit the OXO on the ride home every time like clockwork. I bet you forgot those something.
So pretty much those, I have one panned all the way to the right, one panned all the way to the left. Obviously, these are different takes. And for these effects, it's pretty much the exact same as the other one, except I've turned up the reverb, some of the delay, the flanger all the way, and backed off a little bit on the parallel compression. I also turned up the clarity too, because I like to have these feeling a little bit more. I don't want a lot of the low end because my vocals are already kind of there. And it can get kind of muddy. So I have these as more like a higher end type of double. And then finally and last, I have these ad-libs kind of underneath the doubles umbrella, but then I just have these tuned all the way, where the others are tuned some but not completely. And then so this is the whole thing with the ad-libs, everything kind of together.
Wishing I could freeze time, we could take a joyride, slide with the top down. Rolling through the east side, looking at our old spots, wonder who you got now. Yeah, we would hit the OXO on the ride home every time like clockwork. I bet you forgot those, something that you block out now that you got hurt. Cause we out of time, out of time, out of time for you.
So again, not a great singer, but I like singing, so that's what I'm doing. So it's kind of like a Bryson Tiller track. I hope that was helpful. Again, you can get this exact same studio rack for your own vocals, everything kind of done for you already in the description below. Check that out. I also have some freebies there as well if you just want something to kind of get you rocking and rolling that you don't have to buy. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you for sticking around if you made it this far. As always, man who's obsessed with making dope music, teaching how to make your own. Check you on the next one. Peace.